Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be presenting some questions that you might also have about the Air India crash preliminary report. So let's go through these questions. Okay, question number 1. Did one of the pilots shut down both engines deliberately right after takeoff? Why the question? On page 14 of the preliminary report, it says that both engines were shut down by switching the fuel cutoff switches to the cutoff position right after takeoff at the 8 hours, 8 minutes, and 42-second mark. It also mentions that one of the pilots is heard asking the other, why did he cut off? The other pilot responded that he did not do so. So, in my opinion, at this point in time, okay, and I could be totally wrong, but for me, no. These engines were not shut down by the pilots. No, none of the pilots tried to commit suicide. No. Why do I say this? Because there's no evidence of that. The only thing that you and me are going by is a halfway done preliminary report. Okay? So, pointing to one of the pilots of this aircraft, pretty much putting the blame on one of the pilots for the cause of this crash, deliberately shutting down the engines, man, we better have very good evidence of this. Okay, question number 2. On page 15, it says that the EGT was observed to be rising for both engines, indicating relight. The question is, how is this possible? How is this possible? At the beginning of the page, it says that the engine 1 fuel cutoff switch transitioned from cutoff to run at about the 52-second mark. The APU inlet door began opening at about the 54-second mark, consistent with the APU auto start logic. 54-second mark. Lower in the page, it says that the flight recorder stopped recording at the 9 minutes 11-second mark. So from the 8 minute 54-second mark, where the APU start logic started, to the 9 minute 11-second mark, if I'm not mistaken, we're talking about 17 seconds. So how was it possible to relight both engines in 17 seconds with the APU off? You know, I'm not saying that this is impossible, but I don't see how is this possible. So if the report is saying this, man, I really hope to see how this was possible. Any mechanic, pilot for a 787 or expert could probably answer this for me or for other people. How is it possible to relight two engines in 17 seconds with the APU off at a very, very slow speed? How was this possible? Okay, question number 3. According to the report, at the 8 minute 42-second mark, and immediately thereafter, the engine 1 and engine 2 fuel cutoff switches transition from run to cutoff, position one after the other, with a time gap of 1 second. So let's say the engines shut down 1 second later after fuel cutoff. I believe that's pretty much the time after you put the engine switch on cutoff and the engine shutting down is 1 second. I could be wrong. Probably it's 2 seconds. Someone out there can please illustrate me or correct me. So my specific question is, question number 3, how is it possible for the aircraft to continue climbing steady without any changes with both engines shut down? It might be possible. I don't see myself, probably with my lack of knowledge, how is this possible? You can see on the video how the aircraft continues to climb slowly, but it's climbing. I would think that if both of your engines are shut down, that nose is gonna drop almost immediately because all the weight of the passengers, full of fuel, slow speed, I would think that probably in no time this aircraft would stall if you don't bring that nose down. Okay, question number 4. If the engines were shut down one right after the other with a 1 second difference on the video, I would think that we would see yaw. Yaw meaning if one airplane is taking off, aircraft is taking off, one engine shut down, you will see this. The other one shut down, you will see this, or some movement in the yaw. I have seen this video many times. I don't see that. I could barely see something right after liftoff, but it's minimum. So that's my question. How come if both engines shut down, we don't see yaw movement for the aircraft? Probably, I just don't notice it. Maybe I'm just wrong. It's just a question. Okay, question number 5. What happened to one of the pilots' Mayday call? For weeks, I was listening to this.
Thrust not achieved, falling, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Those were the last words of Captain Sumit Sabharwal and his crew from the cockpit of Air India Flight 171 moments before.
So, Mayday, 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 thrust not achieved. What happened to that? Was someone making that up? Did someone in air traffic controller was making that up? Or maybe the preliminary report suppressed that part? Was someone lying? I would like to get that part clear. Did the pilot say Mayday, Mayday, Mayday and didn't say anything else? Or he said Mayday, 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 thrust not achieved? Let's get that part clear. Okay, question number 6. Did the pilot or one of the pilots shut down the engines in an attempt to restart two failed engines, or they were having problems with the thrust, and probably the pilots tried to reset to try to get the engines to work properly? I think that's a fair question. Probably they were trying to get those engines to work properly. I'm very interested to see the flight recorder information, see all the data from the engines, from everything, and see if they deliberately shut down the engines or they were trying to get them to work properly, and that's why probably they shut them down and put the switch to a cutoff and put it back to run. It's a fair question, don't you think? Question number 7. This is probably a personal question because I don't see many people asking this question, okay? Probably this is very hard to answer. If the both engines had an electrical problem, this aircraft had an electrical problem, and all four generators shut down, okay? So all electrical power is out. And those engines go from pressure boost electrical fuel pumps, and right on takeoff, they switch to fuel suction mode or suction feed. The engines would have no change whatsoever, there will be no RPM going down, no change whatsoever, right on takeoff with a high degree of angle of attack. This is something that for me, I would like to understand that, because I'm thinking that there's a probability that this aircraft had an electrical problem, lost all electrical power, lost all the electrical fuel pumps, and these engines went from very good boosted pressure fuel feed to immediately go into suction feed on liftoff, where the maximum power is required. No change whatsoever. The engines will behave perfectly fine on takeoff with a high angle of attack. Someone out there, please, if you can answer that question with some evidence, not on a simulator, please. Okay, question number 8. How fast engines shut down after you move that fuel switch from run to cut off? I think it's 1 second. I was able to find a video from a simulator, okay, from a Boeing 787, where the captain is shutting down the engines, and you can see the engine information starting to go down after almost 1 second, maybe 2 seconds.
Parking brake is set. Cabin crew disarm slides. APU is running. Fuel control switches to cut off.
It's a little bit hard to see on this video because the position of the camera, and also the co-pilot covers the engine's information. But I also saw another video. This is from a Boeing 747. Probably is different from the Boeing 787, but I think probably they're going to be very similar. And you can see here that once the captain put those switches to the cutoff, those engines pretty much shut down immediately, 1 second. Okay, you saw right there, he was probably turning the two engines from the left side of the aircraft first out of the camera frame, and then the other two. And you can see when he switches down, you can see the engine's information going down almost immediately. So for those asking, probably they shut down the engines and the engines continue running for a few more seconds, and that explains why the aircraft continues to climb. No, I don't think so. 1 second difference between switch cutoff and the engines shutting down. Okay, question number 9. On the preliminary report, apparently they have access to other cameras from the airport. I would like to know, what was that dust or smoke that was seen when the aircraft lift off? That will be interesting to know and clarify. Okay, and question number 10. What do I think caused this crash? The quick, honest answer is I don't know. Do I think that one of the pilots deliberately crashed this aircraft by shutting down the engines? No. At this point in time, I don't think so, until there's evidence of that. Okay? Now, what I suspect that probably happened, or think that could happen, I think that probably 2 possibilities for me, and I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. I admit it. But I go more with one of these theories. One is that they lost probably the left engine during the takeoff, probably at liftoff, and they were left with only the starboard engine, the right engine, and that engine, for some reason, okay, didn't have all the electrical availability. Probably one generator was down, and that one generator left could not hold the entire electrical system. So this electrical system shut down, and those two, that right engine that was left running went from fuel boost pressure pump to suction feed. And that probably caused that engine to deteriorate power, thrust. The whole thrust was not available. Probably I'm absolutely and totally wrong. But I think there's a possibility that probably happened. And the second theory that, I think that probably could have happened is that on the takeoff run or on liftoff, they had an electrical problem, total electrical failure. And again, those engines went from electrical boosted fuel pumps to suction feed right on takeoff, on liftoff, and with a high angle of attack. And that deteriorated the engines and probably a flame out. I could be totally and completely wrong. Okay, probably the next report is just going to show the flight data recorder is going to show that, hey, look, they shut down the engines. Okay, all right, that's it. But until then, okay, until we have evidence, you and me see evidence of that, I'm still thinking that there's a probability that something else happened. I want to see the evidence just like you. Take care and see you in the next video.